London and the Architecture Association. I'm Marina Lathouri, and I direct the Masters in History Critical Thinking. And today we are here to give you an insight into the course. It's not within this half an hour to describe everything we do, but myself and the 4 students who are here today, we will try to explain what we do, how we do it, and the ways we work and think, and especially the intensity and the experience we share, all of us, during this 1 year. I'll briefly introduce the course, some main objectives, academic and intellectual objectives of the course, and then I'll let the students tell you about their own experience, about their own work, and their own visions. The course is not, despite the first term of the title, of the name, it's not a history course, or it's not a history course in a conventional sense. But I would say that it rather relates to the present and the now. By that I mean that we try to situate and interrogate ongoing debates, ongoing arguments, theories, forms of architectural practice, cities, and we use history as a means to equip ourselves and as a means to frame and pose the questions. So it's more a systematic inquiry into histories rather than history, into multiple constructions of the past, and that becomes for us like a tool, a framework to move on and, as I said, situate our thinking, our writings within the present. So history is both an object of study for us. We examine specific histories. At the same time, history is at work in the sense that we try to investigate ways of writing history from now, being here, and from, of course, the point of view of the discipline of architecture. Our main tool, our main medium, our main means of expression and communication is writing, the text, the words. We work a lot with language. Therefore, throughout the year, we experiment and we ask the students to embark on a number of projects, writing projects. They write longer essays or shorter experimental and more critical pieces. They take part in reviews, that also becomes for them a way to interact with the production of the school and all the public life of the school. They conduct interviews, and they learn how to develop research proposals, how to pose and construct arguments, and at the end they have to write the final thesis. This is an image from a symposium, our annual event, which took place last May. It's on the issue of language. We invited a number of scholars, writers, artists, philosophers, to talk through the work about the workings of language. That's why we call it Words and Voices. Of course, we investigate other media as well, and in one way we use all of these resources, like architectural writings, philosophical investigations, novels, drawings, photographs, films, in order to analyze and work with the relationships between the textual, the visual, and the graphic. considering that these are all parts of our practice as architects and as people who engage with design through multiple languages. Also, I would like very briefly to give an idea, a sense of the structure of the course in the 4 terms. The course is a 12-month program, so it's quite intensive. In term 1, we focus more on the issue of historiography, and therefore we revisit histories, and in particular histories of modernism and writings on modernity, in order to open up and break through the politics of and the issues involved in historiography, and see how different ways of thinking about the building, about the city, about the past, about the future, have already been codified and have been communicated. Students are also involved in curatorial practices. We have this year, we'll have a project, will occupy the gallery space of the Architectural Association for a month, and we'll stage and coordinate a number of events and activities and debates within the space. Also, we are having trips, and this is a photograph of a short trip to South France at the house of Eileen Gray in 1027 last year. And in term 2, we move on to more current and ongoing issues, having equipped ourselves with shared ground through the examination of these multiple histories and writings and practices. We try to consider the contemporary from a historical perspective, from a theoretical perspective, and also from a cross-disciplinary point of view. And to open and again experiment with our disciplinary knowledge and expand it and enrich that. These are the courses which are offered in term 2. You'll see that there is a diversity of perspectives, a diversity of voices, and diversity of approaches and objects of study. There's another visit to the Alvar Aalto Library in Helsinki 2 years ago. These are photographs from other visits in previous years. In Marseille, we stayed at the Unité d'Habitation by Le Corbusier. We visited the cemetery by Aldo Rossi, Pompeii, Helsinki, and we used this trip takes place in term 3, and we use that as a venue to open up the research for the final thesis. Also, I would like to say how the HCT group, the HCT students interact, and they are very active part of the school. Being the only program in the AA which doesn't have a design component, we use that element as a way to interact actually with the design production in the school. And we have a relatively small group, and we are conceived and kind of considered as a critical voice in the school. So we take part in a number of design juries. As I said, the HCT group will host a number of events in the gallery space in the next few weeks. This is our main working space. We have our own, but of course is the AA library with the multiple resources which we, our students, and we benefit from. And at this point, I would like to turn to Sophie, who just actually completed the course, submitted her thesis, and I would like her to talk more about her own experience in the year, how the course gave her a possibility to develop her work, her initial thoughts, and perhaps briefly explain a bit your own work, your final thesis.
Okay, thank you. So yes, I just recently finished my thesis, which I called Beloved Scoundrel. But before I speak more about that, I would like to firstly quickly explain my experience of the year. Coming into the program, I definitely knew that I wanted to improve my writing practice, but what I would target the writing at was a fairly abstract set of ideas. And so the breadth of content which is delivered throughout the course allowed me to really survey, it was in a sense a survey, but a very curated survey of current architectural thought with a deep historical underpinning. And I think that gave me the foundation on which to produce something which I hope is quite contemporary and deals with a relevant discussion of the now through historical debates. And one thing which I found particularly encouraging about the course is that the breadth and of topics that my cohort researched is so wide that it really demonstrates how anyone who comes to the course can really bring their own ideas and own material, and they have the liberty to explore those. And there's no sort of agenda imposed upon the students. And I think now that I will switch to speaking about my thesis, it will become evident. So my thesis was called Beloved Scoundrel. I looked quite closely at the architecture of the internet. And of course, talking about such an ephemeral construct meant that I had to look at a range of different disciplines in order to inform how I would navigate this more digital landscape, if you will. And so what was so fantastic is that I drew heavily upon a course from the second term called the Post-Eurocentric City to develop an interdisciplinary method to look at architecture, looking at economics, law, compositional practices, and bring them all together in order to write something about the internet. And I looked specifically at Facebook's submission to the US Senate this June, and tried to use that as a territorial probe for this infrastructure, which I was so fascinated about because it is so contemporary to my life. But moving forward, I would like to just introduce some of the other topics which were discussed. Stephanie Delgado wrote Do Good Architecture, Evolution of Humanitarian Design Discourses. Anghar Davis wrote Our House is Sinking, Writing Against an Interior. Roshanak Sheikh wrote Architecture of Deterrence. Nicholas Rivera Bianchi wrote From and Toward the Built World, Collecting as a Modus Operandi for Architecture. Marco Scoblar wrote Extensions of the Self, Architecture, Bodies and Tools. And Olivier Belflamme wrote The Accursed Architecture. And finally, Chandni Joshi produced The Unbuilt House, which looked at Mies van der Rohe's unbuilt and only project in London. So now I would like to pass to Stefan, who was a few years ahead of me, but has just completed the full cycle of his education.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for this amazing update on the work and the functioning of this program. I was part of this 4 years ago when I left practice. All of a sudden, giving free, let's say, elaborating on my research, on my interest, which were related to academia. For many years, I was concerned with the way sustainable development emerges as a concerning topic within practice, and the way architecture as practice relates to these issues. Of course, while joining the program, I had to set my interest apart in the first term. As we have seen, it was and still is a way of a period where all the students acquire the same background and a common language to this critically engaged with their topics of interest later on in the year. And I must say that this approach throughout the 3 terms in the year helped me set up my interest for the PhD, which followed immediately after the History and Critical Thinking course. And it laid out a basis for very meticulous inquiry into what I now call environmental ethics and the architectural projects. Throughout my becoming, my evolution here at DAA, I was able to identify a set of archives and a set of resources that fueled my concern with sustainable development that is portrayed more as a myth than a reality. Well, while the infrastructure that DAA makes available for the students at the HCT and also at the PhD program allows a cross-section through various disciplines and various, as was mentioned before, various topics at the intersection of which everyone can find a concern and an interest. I found the program 4 years ago as a very useful way of laying out my research question and distilling what was really my deep concern with architecture. And I believe that this not only summed up to my becoming as a researcher, but also as a practitioner of architecture, the way we engage with the material practice in terms of approach to drawings, approach to design questions, does not differ very much from the way questions are posed in real practice. However, it adds a component of research, of which towards which this program and adjacent programs in the school opens their students. So I would like to highlight the important role that archival research and library work has in structuring what Marina sets out to draw through this year.
Thank you. I would like to, at last but not least, to welcome and give the microphone to our new students. They've been here only for a week, but nevertheless, I would like to ask them what they had expected, or what are the first impressions, what they think that they're going to learn or develop or take out of the year. Isabel?
So my name's Isabel, and as Marina mentioned, I've just started the course last week. So I've only been in the course for a short period of time, but I'll just explain a little bit about why I chose to do the course, or what my thought process was when I was looking at different courses. I finished my undergraduate degree in architecture a couple of years ago, and I was searching for a course which would allow me to explore architecture, but more broadly. So I was attracted to this course because it looks at architecture, but it also considers other disciplines, which was something that I was interested in doing. I was also attracted to this course because it allows you to develop a thesis over the course of a year, which I think is something that I'm looking forward to doing. Also because it's a small class, as we've mentioned, it's a great opportunity to learn from some really great tutors and have 1 on 6 classes, or 1 on whatever, how many people are in the year. And I think I'll find that really valuable, so I'm looking forward to that. And so far it's been really nice meeting everyone that's in the class and meeting people that share similar interests and are also working on developing styles of writing, which is something that I'm interested in doing. I'm really looking forward to improving my writing over the course of the year and getting feedback on that, and as I mentioned, having the opportunity to develop a thesis, which could lead to a PhD or could lead to aside to practice and things like that. So
Thank you. And Katerina?
Thank you. My name is Ekaterina. I'm also a new student at here at History and Critical Thinking program. Basically, I have chosen this precise course among all other courses because it has a unique structure. And as Marina already mentioned, it is not a design-based course, but the project is the text, and the students develop their ideas, theories, approaches through different, sometimes experimental forms of working with text. And I believe that this allows to propose a statement, a theory, an approach which would be connected with the political, economical, cultural situations, with the current debates, and also what is very important, what we can quite often hear in the this question rising is the issue of what is the present, what distinguish us from the past and the future. So here at this course, I believe that I will be able to, as Marina calls it, to find my voice and to be able to not to do it like in a manner or a style, but more to explore an agenda that is important in our contemporary world in terms of architecture. And what was really interesting in the course, what I would say from this 1 week that passed, is that we were asked to think about the thesis already at the beginning of our classes. And I guess it's a very promising approach because it makes us to perceive the information that and to perceive every knowledge that we get in a very certain way, having this background thought about what is our main direction here in terms of this program, what is that could in future develop to like a theme, a period of even a period of life.
Thank you, Katerina. So I hope that we managed to communicate some of the commitment and some of the dedication and the intensity of the course. Of course, if you have questions, we are very happy to answer to this, and perhaps we can end with the website. Show the website. Now, yeah. Yes. So you can find more information on the website, and everybody will be very happy to assist with any questions you may have regarding the academic content of the course or regarding the application process. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.